welcome to Women's Wealth, the podcast with me, Joanne. My mission is to educate, inspire, and empower you all to step into your own life of wealth. That feeling of being so rich in your mind, body, and soul. I'm so happy to have you here. Let's get straight into it. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Wealth with Joanne. And I'm here today. I have a guest with me. I have Stacey Roberts with me today. And before we learn a little bit more about Stacey, I'm just going to go straight in with a deep dive question here, Stacey. I hope that's okay.
Sure.
So, as someone with 30, it's not too hard. As someone with 30 years experience doing what you do, which we'll unveil as we start to chat, what advice would you, or what do you wish other people knew about being able to live pain-free?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think really, after all these years, I think one of the biggest things is we need to still become more accountable for our own health. Instead of, and I think this is changing over time, but realizing that, one type of system, the conventional medicine system, which is fantastic for many things, may not have all the answers for what you're trying to deal with in regards to pain. So the listener just, if I always trust and verify, right? So I get information, then I, start to research it, and then try finding trusted individuals that you can talk to that have experience in both conventional and other therapies as well too. So being accountable for your own health and not just taking everything for, especially if it hasn't worked for you, you really have to keep looking, for answers.
Yeah, I do like that. And I like being accountable for your own health because I feel that a lot of people have allowed that accountability to be taken away from them over time.
Right.
This has just happened over time. And now we kind of live in, if you're not intentionally looking after your own health and wellness and learning about health and wellness, then we've had that accountability taken away from us. And we don't kind of, a lot of people, and I will speak to people, I'm like, they'll go to their doctor, they follow the rules, and that's it. There's no other, they're not seeking other answers. They're not trying to learn about other avenues. And I do feel that we've kind of had that taken away from us a little bit, but then some people are not trying to chase that accountability back, not trying to take ownership. So I really do like that. And you come from a background of Western medicine.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so I've been a
Yeah.
physical therapist or physio for over 30 years. I'm now a master's prepared nurse, but I'm also a master herbalist as well too, and worked as a naturopath in Australia. So I've been in the US and Australia. So I've seen how different systems run. And I didn't, I'm a master herbalist, but, fast forward or go back 10 years prior to me doing that, I thought herbs could kill you. I mean, I was it's indoctrinated in kind of Western medicine and the healthcare system when you're learning that all those things don't have the research behind them, that they're dangerous, all that type of stuff. When I was having my own health issues, conventional medicine wasn't able to help me. They said everything was normal, and I was like, I am not, no, this is not normal, sleeping, 18 hours a day, all these dry patches on my face, gaining weight, all that type of stuff. And even though my blood test came back normal, they said, well, there's nothing we can, nothing we can do. So that made me dive deep into what else is out there. And there found that actually that's untrue. There is research supporting it and thousands of years of traditional use to help support, it as well. So I have one foot in conventional and one foot in natural, and I try to find the best route for the patient, the person sitting in front of me.
Yeah. Amazing. And was that hard for you after years of studying college, university, going through the Western route, and then stepping away from that? Because I have watched on other podcasts, doctors and nurses that kind of get, what's the word, shunned then by the doctors so was that difficult? Did you kind of have to do it, learn about your under a hidden blanket like Cloak and Dagger, or
So I think what I realized is, well, first of all, it wasn't as hard for me to look into like alternatives to medications, things like that, because where I grew up, my mom was a nurse. My dad was a factory worker, but we didn't, if I had a headache, it was go get a glass of water. It wasn't take this pill, right? If I, had, a sprained ankle from sports, it was okay, elevate it and ice it, not take this pill. So from that point of view, I was not really, that wasn't my first go-to anyway. But then when I started to research again for my own general health, not wanting to take, medications that, they couldn't even tell me that if those would help me, I started to get pushback from, other practitioners that I had previously referred to and, asking for, them to support this patient on the conventional journey, but also allow them to do the holistic and natural stuff as well. And I started getting pushback about where's the evidence, where's the science. And the nice thing is I could send that to them, right? So even though they said there's nothing there, I'm like, oh, yes, there is. So I was able to, because I had that background already, I was able to gather that information, send that to them. And I wouldn't say that they became believers, but it made a little crack in the door so that they were like, okay, at least we're she's looking from research evidence-based point of view, even though if they didn't think the research was as strong as, conventional research. So I think I just had to keep pushing, and it was mainly for my patient's benefit to do so. For example, I used to work with patients who had fertility issues that, eventually may have still needed IVF. So, and they wanted natural support while they went through that process. So we developed a program that was okay with their IVF clinic as well as with their patients. And we do that similarly now with the patients that I see for pain as well too. We don't say get off all medications. Absolutely not. I'm not against medications.
Yeah.
But it's about, okay, how can we minimize their use, especially if side effects are impacting you? And, what can we do to help support your body if you do need to stay on these medications? So, yeah, I really try to have one foot in each area and then have the patient choose their best route.
Yeah. And I think that is the perfect mix, and that's how I kind of live my life as well. Like if there's a plant, if there's something natural, if I can drink some water
Right.
and see, because a lot of the time, you're tired, your head hurts, something aches, just drink some water and I feel like, oh, okay, that's what I needed. Or take a nap, or have this tick box of trying all of these things that don't involve taking a tablet, having an
Right.
injection, because again we have the side effects from those things that then we have to deal with.
It's
And
a
do you
slippery
think,
slope.
yeah, is there a reason, and you probably don't have a set answer for this, but for someone who's worked closely in working in the medical industry, is there a reason why they don't want to sort of talk about the plant, when I say plant medicine, I don't mean like the all the
Shaman.
Yes, yeah, but plants as medicine and herbs and nutrition and diet and that kind of thing. Is there a reason they do want to keep it separate? Does it just go back to like what is it? Is it money? What is it? Is there a reason, or is it just
The physician themselves or the person who is maybe against that, we could talk about big pharma and all that stuff, but really where it's at is the physician sitting in front of the patient. Number one,
yeah,
they don't get the education in school. I didn't. The only education I got in school in regards to herbs and supplements was to say that they don't work. I mean, that was pretty much it. That was, there was no effort into educating about those, which incidentally you find out later, and that a lot of these medications come from those plants, so it's kind of
yeah,
a bit of a
yeah,
disconnect, and you don't really realize that, at least I didn't at that young age until later going, well, wait a minute, most of these are derived from these plants. So there has to be some reason why the plants are great. So number one is they don't know. They're not educated in that way. They may not have had a reason to become educated in that way. Maybe they didn't grow up in an environment where they utilize those things. And also maybe they haven't had health issues that they needed to look for something alternative. So, and there is this undertone of indoctrination overall, although it's changing slightly, of again, there's no evidence for this.
yeah,
So it's dangerous. It could hurt you. And there are plenty of medications that are potentially can hurt people if taken in the wrong way or
yeah,
for too long of a period of time. And that's my goal, is to educate people
yeah,
about everybody thinks popping a pill for a headache is fine, but if you're doing that over and over and over again, or trying to decrease your pain, you're actually decreasing your body's own natural ability to heal. And the research shows that that is NSAIDs, for example, nonsteroidal anti-inflammatories. Those things are, if you take them too often for too long, they actually make you have more pain. Same with pain medications. So you become hypersensitive to pain. And then also the research is showing that if you take them too long, you are more apt to develop chronic pain. So, and we think of these pills that are available over the counter as just really innocent. We can take them for as long as we want,
Yeah.
for, however many times we want. It's not going to be a big deal, but it can be for some people.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that because once I started my own journey, I know everyone uses the word journey, but I did used to be the person. I would always have, my little makeup bag with ibuprofen and a mixture of painkillers. And if someone had a headache, I was always like, oh, I can help, and I'd stock up on them when I would go to the shops. And when I then decided to try and limit how much I was taking, I actually really don't get headaches that much anymore anyway, because now I'm more aware of, have I had too much phone time? Have I been artificial lights? Do I just need to go stand outside, get some
Right.
sunlight and drink some water rather
Mhm.
than, oh, my head's really foggy. I'm gonna, I'll pop a tablet to try and take it away. But now I'm like, right, yeah, I haven't had any sunlight today. So I'm going to go outside. I'm going to drink some water. I'm just going to sit and look at the sky, and then,
Right.
but yeah, I don't get any. And yeah, I never
Yeah.
thought of it that I was probably actually just masking. It wasn't taking the headache away. I wasn't doing anything other than
Right.
taking a tablet. So the headaches
Yeah.
were obviously still there. And because I wasn't improving anything else in my life other than taking a tablet. I wasn't drinking any more water. I wasn't getting any sunlight. I was, in the artificial lights and scrolling on my phone. And I'm wondering why at the end of the day, I was like, oh my God, I feel like I've got a hangover and I haven't even had a drink. And it was,
Right.
no alcohol, but with a hangover. Like, how does that work?
Yeah. And it's not a natural thing. I really think we are kind of indoctrinated. We are through digital advertising, through all the, television advertising about how easy this is and, to do this and it's natural and it's normal to take a pill for, let's say, a headache. I'll never forget, I was coming home from overseas and we were in a bus to move from one terminal to another. And pretty much everyone in that bus had been on the long flight and they were going somewhere else and everybody was tired, and across from me sat a mother and a son. He was probably maybe about 10 years old. And he put his head on his mom's shoulder and was like, oh, I have a headache. And she's kind of, she's tired. So she's kind of nudging him off her shoulder. And he's like, oh, mom, I have a headache. And she's digging in her purse to get a pill. And she gives him a pill. And he's like, no, I don't want it. She's like, take it. And he's like, no, I don't want it. She's like, take it. So there was no, um, he begrudgingly took it, but there was no like here's some water or here's a little snack because maybe your
Yeah,
blood sugar's low or maybe you're dehydrated. It was he's
yeah,
in pain, get rid of it as fast as possible instead of thinking through like again if that were me, when I was 10 years old, we wouldn't have been in an airport because we wouldn't have been able to afford it, but
yeah,
it would have been here's some water, go have some water, go eat a banana, something like that. And we've just moved so far away from that into what can we do as fast as
yeah,
possible without thinking of maybe the long-term consequences of even teaching that 10-year-old that you have a headache, you take a pill, instead of teaching that 10-year-old
yeah,
have some water, have some food, and that type of stuff.
yeah. So when people come to you, what pain, is there a specific area that you're working with? Or are you working with general pain?
So I do a lot
Do
with
they,
musculoskeletal
yeah,
pain, so joint pain, muscle pain, but also pelvic floor, pelvic health issues. We do some sexual medicine as well for painful intercourse, erectile dysfunction, things like
yeah,
that. So the vast majority of what we do with the joint pain is we have an advanced technology called soft wave therapy. So that really helps to decrease localized pain faster than I've seen anything in all of my years as a physio. And then if that person,
mm,
that person's pain doesn't go away in just a few treatments, we know that it's not localized, because as long as we're treating the right spot, that soft wave therapy is fantastic in getting rid of localized inflammation. So then we might move them into our functional medicine program to look at their hormones, to look at their gut health, to look at the food sensitivities, other things that can be causing muscle and joint pain or pelvic pain as well too. So we have a kind of a holistic program to say, okay, if this isn't localized and it's more systemic, we've got other options. And I think that's where people just don't have other options. They think, okay, if the pill doesn't work, if physio doesn't work, then I just have to live with this pain for the rest of my life, or I have to have surgery, or that. And that's, instead of looking at the new research that says, hey, there's something called the gut joint axis. So your gut can impact
Yeah.
joints, muscles feel. So that's a whole new area that's burgeoning, that's coming up to show people that what we put in our bodies, how we've treated our gut over the years, can contribute to significant pain and inflammation, even arthritis, which is newer
Yeah.
research now.
Wow. And I think even that in itself, because we, and again, people who don't look into this and don't understand that brain gut mindset, connection, that they would associate the joint pain. So this is the joint. This is, maybe I don't need to, I'll stop moving. I'll just take painkillers. I'm not going to move as much.
Mhm.
And they're not going to think, oh, maybe it's because I'm eating XYZ that I'm inflamed, or I'm not eating, have turmeric a lot because I know I'm a yoga teacher. So throughout the week, I'll have 2, 3, 4, however many, there's shots of turmeric, ginger, with the intention of inflammation. I don't have any, but preventative, because I'm, teaching yoga 20 hours a week,
Right.
so just looking after that. And I know that other people I speak to, when they say like, oh, my knees are hurting, as a yoga teacher, people come up to me all the time like, I have this pain, I have that pain, and I've rested. And I do always say like, oh, introduce some turmeric into your life. You can take the pills, you can take the shots. They sell them, in the yoga studio. Have you thought, and they're just like, oh, I didn't, they don't correlate that, where the pain is where the problem is. If that makes, does that
Right.
make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the way
Yeah.
that they see it. The pain's in the joint, that's the root of the problem. However, like you've just said, it's probably not.
Right. And I think I was lucky enough early on in my
And that's really
training.
interesting with the arthritis as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Early on in my training, I was taught pain is not always where the problem
Yes,
is,
I
or
carry on. Yes, yes.
the problem isn't always where the pain is. So it taught me to look beyond that. And it was the
Yeah.
purpose was to look beyond in other areas of the body. Like if you have pain in your knee, it could be coming from your back or your hip, things like that. But also it helped me later on to look to say, okay, this pain of arthritic knees might be coming from somewhere else, not just wear and tear, not just, something mechanical, but even hormones. Like a lot of women don't know that one of the most
Yeah.
common symptoms of menopause is in fact joint pain. So we hear all the time about hot flashes and hot flushes, but we don't talk about joint pain being almost or even more common than those types of symptoms. So, we take all these, again, medications to
Yeah.
decrease that when it could be just helping, your hormones, either naturally or some bioidentical hormone therapy to balance things out.
Yeah. Yeah. And learning how to, balance your hormones to then prevent or support all of these side effects from menopause, perimenopause, and again, just hormone imbalance. I have
Mhm.
so many friends who they list off all of these symptoms, and I'm like, ugh. And obviously you can't preach to everybody, but I'll just ask the question. So, what are you eating? Like, are you doing X, Y, Z? And then they'll tell me, and I'm just like, oh. So
Mhm.
I'll just, little things that I'll just try and throw in is just chia seeds, flax seeds for your breakfast. Like straight away, you're going to have those omega-3s. They're going to help with, balancing out the hormones. And all you have to do is just chuck them into whatever it is you're having for your breakfast. And that's such an easy way to start.
Mhm.
And so where do you, if your patients are coming to you and you have your little red flags of, do you ask them to go through their diet, their lifestyle, and then you start picking it apart, I guess, without saying that you're doing everything wrong.
So we often start with the soft wave therapy that I was telling you about. And then because the patient's coming for me
Yeah,
with a mindset that, okay, the problem is in my knee because that's where my knee hurts. Once I explain to them that, oh, you also have carpal
yeah,
tunnel, you also have hip pain, you also have back pain, you also have this, you also, that there could be a systemic issue. After that second or third treatment of my manual therapy and soft wave therapy, if they're not any better, then we start doing a food diary with symptoms. And then we look at food sensitivities. And if the person is in perimenopause, then we also assess their hormones as well too. And again, I educate the patient in all the different potential ways, even how their gut could be contributing. And then I give them a choice with my guidance to say, I'm thinking you're perimenopausal, so maybe hormones, so maybe we do that first. Or we've looked at your diet and there's some
mm,
things to work on, so maybe we do that first. Or food sensitivities were a big thing for me. I used to get back pain down my leg. I have a couple bulging discs, so I always thought it was from that. I would do my exercises, but then sometimes it wouldn't go away. Well, I found out that if I was having gluten in my diet, I would automatically get the pain into my hip, into my leg, and my foot would go numb. So once I remove gluten, I don't have those symptoms anymore. And that's for me. Gluten for me is the issue. For other people, it might be something else. So the
yeah.
accurate food sensitivity testing is really important. And there's some food sensitivity tests that aren't as accurate. If they're IgG based, they've been proven to not be quite as accurate. So I use a
Mm,
test called the ALCAT, ALCAT, and that's proven to be extremely beneficial for my patients.
yeah, yeah. And then I suppose then it's you're able to sort of lay down through that food diary and through the food sensitivity test and sort of see, and teaching your patients as well that your food, literally what you said earlier, that what goes in comes out. So if you're not putting certain things in, it's going to have an effect. And, you know, same the other way around. I also I had still have the bulging discs, and I cut out gluten for a long time as well. And I've started the last couple of years to introduce gluten back, and I've been okay. My back pain has stayed
Good.
away. But what I think it was for me as well, a triangle, I was really anxious. So
Mm,
I think it was a lot of my mindset. And again, what people don't also think about is, what's going on in here can manifest
mhm,
in physical pain and back pain. Like you said, I used to have such bad pain down my left leg, and I had all of these tests for nerve damage and had all of the painkillers and vitamin B jabs, and just nothing would seem to shift it. And I was eating a gluten-free diet. And then I started to learn more about myself and look after my mind, and then what I was putting in my body to support. And then again, now virtually, well, I could say that I am pain free. I can't remember the last time that I had that pain, but again, it's having that package and that understanding of, okay, what I'm putting into my body. And I'll hold my hands up now that what I was putting into my body as well. I wasn't, fast food addict, but I wasn't eating clean foods. So I was eating a lot of pre-packed food for convenience, and I wasn't reading labels. And like now I try to live by just one ingredient. So trying to eat things that they're just that one ingredient. And if I do read the packet, if it's got more than 5 ingredients that I don't know, I'm kind of like, I'm not gonna, you know, as best as I can, obviously, not perfect. But is that
right.
something as well that you would teach your clients as well, your patients?
Absolutely. And more to just be more mindful of how you feel after you eat certain foods. So for example, I never put together
Yeah,
that gluten and my back pain was connected until I had a couple patients that had celiac disease. And when they removed gluten because they had to, their joints got better. And I was like,
yeah,
interesting. Oh, what's that? So then I researched that.
Mm,
And now I know, like I've done the food sensitivity testing, and occasionally there'll be food that I have if I'm traveling or something that I don't know if something I'm sensitive to is in it. And then I'll immediately feel exhausted, like within 30 minutes of eating that food for no real
yeah.
reason. So now I'm paying attention to, oh, okay, this is how I feel after eating a certain thing. And that's my first place that I go to, right? I think if I have pain, I go, what did I eat?
Mm,
And then if what I ate was what I should be able to have, then I start thinking about other things. And I think we do the reverse, or we don't even think about it, right? We have, like we've talked about earlier, we have pain, we
mm,
take a pill, we don't even become mindful of why we're having that pain, where it might be coming from, what can I do to address it? Because it
yeah.
takes time, but it might only take 5 or 10 minutes, right? But we've got to move away from being indoctrinated to reach for that, like you had in your makeup bag, to reach for all the pills that we have to make us feel better right away, to stop and go, okay, this pain is a response. It's my body speaking to me. So what can I do to address what my body needs? The other part that you talked about too, which
Yeah.
is extremely important, is the mental health aspect of this whole thing. When people have chronic pain, literally their physiology of their brain can change so that the brain actually makes you become more hypersensitive to the pain because we're continually focused on it. So the neuroplasticity of the brain, which I'm sure you and your listeners have heard about before, is how our brain, even in our adult life, can change depending on our belief system, what we're putting in our body, the actions that we take, all the things that we think about all day. So cognitive behavioral therapy can be helpful with those with chronic pain as well. And that's probably the least accepted aspect of pain treatment, is people thinking, why would my stress levels impact it? Well, there's a physiological reason why, right? You've got your cortisol, you've got your adrenaline, all these things that are hyper, make your system kind of revved up and can create more or contribute to more inflammation in your system. So again, paying attention, is your body in more pain? I have a patient right now who he's realizing that when he's in these certain situations, his leg pain happens and his back pain and hip pain happen. And he's when not in those stressful situations, he doesn't have any pain. So we want to think about what's going on underneath the surface. And again, it's usually not medicine. We like to take everything apart into one or two things, but it can be two or three different things that we have to address in order to feel pain-free over time.
Yeah. And that takes it back to exactly what you said at the start as well. All of those things, taking accountability for your own health, or
Right?
everything, looking at what you eat, what you're doing, your mindset, and a lot of us, and we're guilty of it, we put ourselves into stressful situations, and then we complain that we're stressed and, overworked. We push ourselves through burnout, all of these things that are kind of accepted in the world, that it's kind of like, oh, you have a job, so you, of course, you're burnt out. Like, it's just like, yeah,
Right.
just get on with it.
Right.
Just stay, keep calm and carry on, kind of, just carry on as you are, because that's normal. When again, really, no, it's not. We shouldn't be living. And like your patient, and he's noticing his stress levels, and it shouldn't be that, oh, it's okay, you should be stressed. That's just part of being human.
Mhm.
It's, yeah, it's crazy. And what I
Mhm.
also want to ask you about as well, so my notes here, I'm sharing a lot with my listeners and on my socials about, for ladies particularly, because most ladies listen to this, preparing our bodies for, I call it old lady body or a longevity body, because I feel that there's so many myths about aging and pain, and this is going to happen when you reach this age, and then after this age you can't do this, and your body's going to do this, and by the time you get to, I don't know, you're just going to be bedridden. I feel like there's this kind of pattern of, so a lot of
Yeah.
my friends are coming up to 40. So, in their 30s, some are coming up to the 40, and already they're like, oh, I, I'm 40 next week, and I've started to ache. And I'm like, hang on a minute, your body doesn't know the time. Like, but it's such a mindset. And
Mhm.
so how do you address that? So these myths, because I do feel like sometimes I'm like, just it
Yeah.
doesn't, it doesn't work like that.
Right. I mean, we first have to realize that we're being, consciously influenced by what we watch, what we consume, not just what we eat, but also what we're
Yeah.
watching internet. Again, if all the commercials have, 30, 40, 50-year-olds walking around with pain, aching, all that type of stuff. Again, take this medication to do this. It's kind of indoctrinating us to just believe that we're going to have pain. And if you're going to have pain, no matter what, instead of listening to it, just take a pill to get rid of it. It's the easiest thing to do, right? So trying to understand that at first, that has to be the first step, that we are conscious of actually what's going into our brain and what's going into our mouths, right? And we don't have to have the perfect diet, right? So I can't eat gluten, but I can have some ice cream and I can be fine, right? So it's not as though you have to stay away from every single little thing. But I think it's becoming, again, educating people and becoming more aware that, okay, if you're pushing 40 and you're starting to ache, that's the perfect time to start thinking, okay, my hormones might be changing a little bit. Maybe I'm a little bit stressed out. Maybe I need to look at, how much wine am I consuming at night? 'Cause that's another thing that it's acceptable to be like, oh, everybody's having 1, 2 glasses of wine. It's social. It makes me relax. Well, it makes you relax because it's a depressant, right? So again, not that you can't have any wine or any alcohol, but to start thinking about it and becoming more accountable for how much you are having. And as our gut changes over time as we age from, young to like 40, 50, 60, our gut is continually changing. So what can we do to support our gut? If we just focused on that, like that one thing, even for our children growing up to get their gut to be as healthy as possible, it's going to significantly improve the immune system, significantly improve hormone balance, significantly decrease inflammation, and give us more energy and vitality. So if we really start thinking about, okay, what am I doing? What am I putting in my body? But what am I allowing advertising and society to influence me to think is something I should do when maybe it's not the best for me?
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. As my friends, I'm just like, just because your body, it doesn't work. Like they just have this in their head. I'm 40 now. I'm gonna start aching. So then, of course, they're then like hypersensitive over every tiny little ache. Like you could have just slept funny that you've had an ache. That can happen when you're 21. It
Right.
doesn't.
Right.
It's not age. But then if you are aching more, again, look at your movement. But then I guess that's just, again, it's an indoctrination of you reach a certain age, you start slowing down when you don't need to. My Instagram now is full of women in their 80s. Obviously, my
Good.
algorithm, because I'll pick it up and I'm following all these ladies in their 80s. I think one is 86 and she's jumping up the stairs in the gym and doing pull-ups, like not in like a bodybuilder way. She looks like a normal 80-year-old lady when she's dressed, and then she's in the gym like, oh my god, this is a role model. I'm always sharing them to my Instagram stories to say, to all my friends complaining that they're turning 40, this lady's got is double of what you're doing, and look at what she's doing now. Like, it's
Yeah.
amazing. Like, your body doesn't have to go that way. Like, it's
Right.
it's amazing what our bodies can do, and we just need to tune into, actually, I'm going to go that way. I want to be jumping up my stairs when I'm 87 as
Right.
well, going to bed. And she's amazing. Everyone must say, oh my god, she is who we need to have on our bedroom walls.
Right. Exactly. And I think, I mean, who does
Yeah,
it benefit when
yeah,
we're indoctrinated, when we're watching television and everybody's talking about their aches and pains and, how they, don't move anymore, and we have an obesity epidemic and everybody, blah, 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 blah. Who does it benefit? It doesn't benefit us to believe that, to have a belief that, okay, we're automatically going to start having pain and automatically not going to be able to move and automatically not going to be able to enjoy life. And, getting old is not for the, the weak, all that type of stuff. It only benefits the people who are selling things to counteract that, or that really keep us in that state, right? So it
yeah,
doesn't benefit us as humans to believe that. Now, I'm pushing 60, so there are some aches and pains that I have that I didn't have before, right? But I'm
yeah,
determined to keep moving, right? And instead of it hurts and I can't move because you've gone to the doctor and they've given you medications or whatever, and now you feel even worse because you're tired all the time and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to, if I need medications, I have thyroid issues, so I take thyroid medication. But I'm going to keep moving and try to find different ways to be able to still enjoy being active as much as possible and keep my mind open and believing in what's possible versus something that's going to limit me. Now, do I have more limitations at 58 than I did at, 48 or 38 or 28? Yeah, but you know what? I'm finding a way to work around that, still be healthy, still exercise, still do things that I love. And it's not the end of the world if you have some discomfort. You just work and again, listen to your body, see if there's anything you can do
Yeah.
with it, and then just keep moving. You have to be, that's where being accountable for
Yeah.
your own health and outcomes is really important. Oh,
Oh, sorry. Did I freeze? Did I freeze? You freeze? Am I back?
yeah,
Are we
you
back?
froze a little bit there. I think we're
That's
back.
it. I froze a little. Yeah, I got. I was like, have I frozen? I did a little move. But yeah, and I think that I just to go back to so my grandma, I think is I don't know. I think she's 86 or
Wow.
87, and so obviously she's got 20 years on you there, and she doesn't lift weights like the lady in the gym, but she driving around in a motorhome. She goes away every weekend. She's still very mobile. She has some arthritis in her fingers, but she hasn't sort of again. She always says to me, "Age is just a number. You just have
Mhm.
to the overarching, just listen to your body and you take more rest or you slow it down. And, instead of going for a run, she's obviously goes for a walk and she got two dogs. So she has to go for a walk. So she walks the dogs. So it gets her out of
Right,
the house and she does long walks and like just little things like that. And I just think, right, okay, well, filter this down so it's for your age. And like I said, my friends who were like, and it's like, oh my gosh, like it doesn't need to be this way
right.
at
Okay.
all. Yeah, yeah. So thank you so much, Stacey. Is there anything I always ask this at the end? If you had a magic wand and you could just whisk the magic wand and make a wish for everyone listening to this, what would it be?
I think it goes back to what we talked about at first, is that people become accountable for their health and then they educate themselves with someone who is reputable, right? And it might take you a few people to go through to find the person that really fits your situation and who you want to work with. In my book that I talk about in the pain-free formula, that's coming out in end of March or April, I talk about, again, all the different areas where you can become more educated in, right? So we talk about how conventional medicine, it treats pain right now. And again, a lot of people do well with that. But then if you're not doing well with it, what's the next step to look at? So if I
Yeah,
had a magic wand, I would love for a lot of these things to be started to be taught in school, taught in medical school, when kids are young and then when healthcare providers are, learning about how they can help patients instead of things being so segmented into like my pharmaceutical book for nursing was literally like that wide, and maybe there was 2 pages on herbs or supplementation. It's just crazy. So I'd like to see a little bit more balance in that. Not to take away pharmaceuticals completely, but to, again, educate people so that they can make the choice that's right for themselves.
yeah, amazing. And I do think that they can work hand in hand, like you've said. We don't need to keep they can blend together and that amazing, the old with the new.
Right.
It's a perfect mix. So thank you so much. And you just mentioned your book there, so I will put all of your links in the show notes. I was trying to think, what am I trying to say here? In the caption, I was going to say, it's not a caption, in the show notes. So it's called The Pain-Free Formula. That's exciting. Is this your first book?
My second book, but first book about pain. So it's the pain-free
Okay.
formula, solving the puzzle of muscle and joint pain without surgery, injections, or medications.
Oh, amazing, amazing. I'll get everything down into the show notes so everyone can track you there, as well as your website and all of the other bits. So if people want to reach out to you, they can. And
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much,
much. And
Joanne.
thank you all for listening. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I will see everyone in the next episode.